Afternoon, everyone. My name is Terry Brown. I'm Small Business Center Director here at Central Carolina Community College. And welcome to Business Planning Market Research, Part 3, Putting It All Together. So if this is your first time on a webinar with us, welcome. Today we're going to be using the chat. So if you have any questions along the way, please post them in the chat and we will monitor your questions to make sure we get those answered for you before we leave today. So with us today, we have Morgan Pruitt. She is the CCCC Outreach and Assessment Librarian. She has a Master's of Arts in English and a Master's of Library and Information Studies. So Morgan, thank you for joining us today. So this is the third part of our series. And today you're going to help us put all of this research we've been doing into our plan and putting it all together. So we're excited. We're excited to get started today.
Great, thank you. My name is Morgan, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I can either answer them as we go or answer them at the end if I happen not to see it or don't catch it. But please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have them. This is an inquiry-based approach to research for small business owners. So this is really about thinking about research in a way that keeps you curious and keeps you open-minded to the information that you can find. And while it might not necessarily be hyper-specific to your individual business plan, we can always work with you individually to cater to find what you need as you look for it. And you'll see down here my outreach and assessment librarian title, but also my email and my phone number. So if you have any questions, you can definitely ask. So our approach is really going to be focused on 3 principles, which is curiosity, reflection, and exploration. And just keeping an open mind to the things that we'll find and try to work through the research in a way that is meaningful and so that we don't get overwhelmed with information. So the first idea is curiosity. So although curiosity is about asking questions, it's also about a mindset. It is a framework of really thinking through the research that you are participating in and staying open-minded to the information that you can find. So you can ask questions, being open to learning, and then staying persistent. So you may not find the answer the first time you search for something, but it doesn't mean it's not out there. It just means that we have to look for the information in creative ways. So don't get discouraged, keep going, keep pressing forward. The second idea or concept we'll keep in mind is reflection. So you might have identified a problem in your business plan, but you may run into some other problems, such as a need for data or evidence of a particular trend in order to support whatever claim you might be making. And so to keep an open mind and to help you as you explore, it might help to turn your problem into a question. So problem solving with a question sometimes will allow you to be a little bit more open-minded to exploration, but it also keeps you open-minded to the idea that the answer that you kind of had in mind at the beginning might be different than the answer information that you find. Not necessarily starting off with a definitive, this is exactly the information that I will use to prove or support my claim or support whatever business venture I'm working on, but rather thinking about what information do I need to find, and then how can I find that information? And then moving forward in exploring and discovering that information effectively. So you might think about starting with simple questions like who, what, when, and where, and then expanding to more complex questions such as why and how. So we'll go ahead and tell you this is a little bit interactive. So I'm going to ask you now to look at a couple of these statements and then turn them into questions that are meaningful to find information. So customers need a better store location. That is the problem that you have. So what is a question that you might ask to help you find the information that you need? You can take this in a lot of different directions. Yes, where is a high volume traffic area? Where do customers come from to shop? What determines a better location? That's excellent. Anybody else want to give it a shot? What are the busiest intersections in town? Excellent. Yeah, these are all great questions. My question is a little basic. I'll have to say that I don't have a background in business, so you'll have to forgive some of the more basic routes I take. But where are stores currently located? That can be a question that then helps us to figure out what information do we need to find. Okay, the number of people in Lee County indicates a need for a better store location. So what might be a question that you could ask based on this problem statement? Yeah, how much square feet do I need? Any other questions? Anybody else think of a question they might ask? Yep, traffic flow, something about like how much traffic flow to expect. Or how many people live in Lee County? That can be like that sort of starting off. Oh, what are higher population areas surrounding Lee County? Yeah, that's an excellent question. So maybe starting off with a sort of basic, how many people live in Lee County, and then sort of making that question a little bit more complex by looking at how much traffic flow can you expect? What are the traffic times that we can see as really significant? So turning those questions or turning those statements into questions can help us to investigate where we need to find more information and what kind of information we need. So we talked about curiosity, we talked about reflection, but exploration is probably the most challenging step because it requires the most work. So different kinds of questions will need different kinds of answers. The limitations of the information that you are using shape how you experience your research process. So for example, when we think about census data, that cannot answer certain kinds of questions. Whereas if we look at data axle reference solutions, that database that was talked about in the first session, that cannot answer other questions that we might have. That's not actually a bad thing. So this goes back to the idea of Abraham Maslow's golden hammer. If the only tool you have is a hammer, it is tempting to treat everything as if it were a nail. So if we look at every problem we have and we only look at one problem solving tool, then we're going to try to use it every single time. And that's going to lead to frustration and confusion. It's not going to give us the information we need. So really what you have now is an expansive toolbox. It's just a matter of picking the right tool that you need for the given context. So let's start with a kind of a big idea. What is in your toolbox? So go to menti.com and enter the code you see here on your screen, and then answer the question that you see. I'll give you just a minute to kind of look through that. Yep, the library, internet, mentor, webinars, classes, work experience, that's excellent. Live plan, yep. Research method, informal conversations, Google, Secretary of State, other local businesses, libraries, skills. Classes, yep. Dreams, oh, that's interesting. Personality and ability to connect with others. Yep, that's a great, getting conversations going with your personality. Yeah, that's for sure. You can get information that way. Anybody else want to add anything? Can you think of anything specific from the last 2 sessions that you might say you could put in your toolbox? And if you've already answered, you're welcome to use the chat if you would like. Databases, yeah, exactly. Internet, lots of resources, library, people, interests, that's great. These are all great responses. Real estate agents, a library, yeah. You have all of these tools in your toolbox. It's now just a matter of figuring out which ones to use and when. So I have some steps and tips for that. These steps and tips they're very broad, but it can be useful to think through these when you get started in your research, and then you can get more specific as you start working on your own projects. So questions to consider when selecting the right tools. So here are some questions to think about. So what do you already know? So a lot of you had already suggested that, what knowledge do you bring to the conversation? You're an expert. You know what skills you have. You know what knowledge you have. You've been doing this for a while. So what do you already bring to the conversation that can be part of how you find information? What kind of information does your problem require from you? So does it require that you find data? Does it require you find business trends? Does it require that you reference conversations maybe? There could be a lot of different ways to answer this question, but thinking about not only what you bring to the conversation, but also what your problem needs will help you kind of figure out where's the gap between what you know and what your problem needs so that you can answer it effectively. What do you need to know more about? Where can you find information you need, or how should you search for that information? And then what kind of information is missing from the information that you already have? So when I'm working on a research project, I actually like to write down all these questions and journal about them. That might not be effective for you, but whatever works for your research process, I would encourage you to explore. So figure out what works for you, try a couple different things, and then each time you need to find information, think through what you bring to the conversation as an expert, what does your problem require from you, and then what else do you need to sort of address that situation or that problem. So some tips for exploring: slow down and ask questions. The most significant advice I can give to any researcher is to slow down. It's easy to try to answer all your questions at once. It can be very overwhelming though. I totally understand wanting to get something done and just be done with it. That is how I do my dishes and my laundry, and I just want it to be out of the way, and I get it. But with research, you do have to slow down and figure out what it is you need, and then how can you be effective in addressing the problem. And then once you figure out what it is that you need and you've asked the questions you need to ask, you can then consider what's in your toolbox. What tools will help you be successful? What do you already know about the tools that you need? What maybe have you heard of, but you haven't really explored a little bit? And then stay persistent. The first search is not always the best search, but that is where the library comes in handy. We are always happy to help you, so you do not need to worry. If you get stuck, don't get frustrated. Remember, the library and librarians are in your toolbox. So we want to help you. We're excited to help you. So feel free to reach out at any time. So we're going to actually practice a little bit. I'm going to kind of show you what I would do in a particular situation, although I strongly encourage you, if you want to sort of guide me along and push me in a certain direction, you are absolutely welcome to. So feel free to use the chat to sort of say, go here or go there, and we'll see if we can incorporate that in the search. So I'm going to tell you what I would do. I'm going to show you how that would look, and then we'll go from there. So your business wants to deliver groceries from Food Lion to people in Harnett County, and you believe that your business and a local Food Lion can benefit from this deal. So I first need to think about what would be my first step. Anybody want to take a guess? Yeah, does Food Lion have a delivery service? Yeah, that's a great question. And you've really hit on the point there, which is that we should start with questions. So what is the current conversation around this type of business venture? How many people live in Harnett County? And then which Food Lion, who's in charge, how much money do or can they spend? Now, obviously, this is not the only questions I could ask. Clearly, there are more questions that I could ask, but let's just start with these three. So I've got these three questions. Now my next step would be to think about what is in my toolbox. So I have a lot of resources, I have some ideas about what I might be able to use. So I think I'm going to start with a couple of different resources. I'm going to start with Business Market Research Collection, which is a library database, to find trends. That will help me to answer my first question. I think I'll use the Census to answer my second question, because that relates to people data. And then Data Axle for my questions about Food Lion. So I'm going to show you in the library how I might try putting some of this together. So obviously go to the library's webpage. And I would start by looking for the Business Market Research Collection. So I would come over here to the databases, and I think I'll do Find by Subject. And as you can see here, the business and management, this would be really great. So I think I'm going to go ahead and search this particular database. Now, if I didn't know which one I was going to use, I just knew, let me go to the library and figure this out. The first thing I would do is actually not start clicking on the database. I would actually take a minute to figure out which database I would want to use. So notice under here, all of these databases have descriptions underneath them. So it will tell you what does it contain and what does it cover. So for example, let's look at, say here, business research from journals, trade publications, market research reports, dissertations, and working papers. I'm not really looking for dissertations. I'm not really looking for academic journals. I'm not really looking for working papers. So that might not be the best, most informed choice for me to make. Is it the right tool in a different context? Absolutely. Is it the right tool in this context? Not for me. So I'm going to go ahead and read through all of these and then decide which one will I use. As you can see, that probably takes up, it might take me 10 or 15 minutes before I actually start doing that research. But in the long run, it saves me time because I know I'm looking in spots that are meaningful and that make sense for the problem I'm trying to address. So I can go in here and I can start doing a little bit of research just about the trends. How comfortable do you all feel about searching the library resources? Like if you had to say on a scale from, oh, good, great, good. So if you had to say on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, still trying to get comfortable with it, that's good. Okay, about a 3, that's okay. 8, still learning. Yes, we're all still learning. Even I'm still learning. And that's 4, that's okay. The main thing is that learning is a process and it takes time. So even I still learn new tricks and tips for how to navigate the library databases. And that's That's the exciting part, is that you never get to stop learning. Oh, that's a great question. How did I get to this actual page here? I'm going to show you one more time. So I would go to the CCCC library homepage. I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat. And then I would go to the databases tab and then find by subject. Now this will be a little bit unique for some of you, because if you're not a current student, like as in you do not have a CCCC student or faculty or staff ID, then these databases are going to be accessible when you're on the campus at the library, but won't be accessible off. However, your public library may have this exact same database, which you can then access through their portals. Find by subject, and then you can click on the business and management, and then you've got your business market research collection there. So in this case, we can search for a couple of different things. In parentheses, we can put grocery or groceries and delivery. And that's just a broad search that we can then investigate a little bit more about what the current trends are. And what that search does is it tells this database we want anything related to groceries and delivery, both of those concepts together, or groceries and delivery, those two concepts together. Main thing is, if one writer is using groceries and one writer is using grocery, this allows us to capture as much information as possible in conjunction with that sort of anchor concept of delivery. Does that make sense? Great. So now I've got my information about the trend. That's great. This right here cannot tell me how many people live in Harnett County. No clue. So instead, now I'm going to go to the census and look that up. How many of you feel comfortable with like something like the census website and the resources they have here? No, that's totally fine. Yeah, it is kind of one of those resources that takes a little getting used to, but you know, if you feel comfortable, that's great. If you're still learning, also great. And now we might search for just broadly Harnett County. And then you can see right here, North Carolina. And then we can explore whatever it is that we might need to be looking for, whether that's the population or we want to know something else related to this particular topic. We can explore a little bit more because it will tell us the population here and then give us a few more tables here. Make sense? The main thing I would encourage you to think about is that you do not have to be an expert in any of these resources. You're the expert that brings the knowledge of your business. When you come to the library, we will help you find what you're looking for. We don't expect you to be well-versed in these resources and know everything all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is that you find the information that you're looking for. And if you feel comfortable searching through this information, that's awesome. You're great. We love you. That's awesome. If you don't, that's awesome. You're great. We love you. We're happy to help. The main thing is we want you to come into the library and we want to help you. So do not hesitate to come in. You're not bothering us. We're here for you so that you can be successful. Your other librarians, whether that's at your public library or whether you're interacting with us online, exact same thing. We want to help you. And then finally, I might then look for the business expenditures of Food Lion to find more information. Because again, Harnett County information will not tell me anything about Food Lion. It's not going to tell me how much they spend. It's not going to tell me what they might be able to afford. It is only going to tell me how many people live in Harnett County, and then maybe a breakdown of certain categories and factors. But I need to now go and look for a different tool to answer a different question. So I'm back here at the business and management page with all of the databases for business management here at the library. Now, a lot of these, oh, what about looking to investigate if the market has already been saturated in the same type of business? That is an excellent question. So now, if you were to look at that question, you would want to investigate whichever resource you think might be effective in answering that question. So that's a great question. I do want to point out that we didn't start out with that question, but as we did more research, we started to think of those questions. And so that's part of the research and learning process, is that as you go, you may think of more questions. Time to pause, slow down, figure out what your question is, what you already know, and then what tools can help to address that question. So in a lot of ways, it is not a linear process. It is not, I did this part, and then I did this part, and then now I'm going to do the end and I'm done. It is a recursive process where you're constantly revisiting questions that you have, the tools in your toolbox, and investigating what more you need to know. So that is great. That's awesome. Now, we have data axle reference solutions here. We can use this to find a very specific Food Lion, but there may be times where you find that certain databases may bring you off course a little bit. So Business Insights Gale Global, for example. I want to pause really quick and show you this really quick. You notice here that you got business disciplines, accounting, economics, finance, marketing, management and strategy, business theory and practice, as well as many businesses and publications. So you might click on this and you might say, okay, I can't wait to use this database. And you get here and let's say we just look up Food Lion. And you don't see it anywhere. You can't really see what you're looking for. It doesn't mean that this database doesn't have anything to offer you. It just means it can't maybe answer the specific question that you have about Food Lion. So instead, you might say, okay, well, what other information do I need to know about? What can this database do? And then you might just explore a little bit. Is it directly related to you finding answers to your question? Maybe not. But then if you get to know this database a little bit more, you can see what it can do for you. So in this case, we might look for a large company like DoorDash. And you might say, well, this maybe is a global competitor. Maybe they have some information that you can use to then explore what your delivery service might look like. Is this necessarily answering any questions that we had come up with yet? No, but now I know, look what this can do. Okay, I'm going to tuck this in my back pocket. This may be a tool I can come back to later. So that's sort of where you get that idea of being open-minded and slowing down and taking the time to really work through whatever it is that you're working on. Because you may run into a situation where you can't find the answer to the question that you need, but you do discover a new tool. So every moment is a learning process, and we're here to support you as you do that. So now I can then go to the one that will actually give me what I'm looking for, data axle reference solutions. And then I can explore the Food Lion that I want to know more about. I can go to US businesses. See, you're in the right place. We can search, and then we can just type in Food Lion, and we'll do, let's just do North Carolina, and then we can decide which ones we want to look at. So you can see we've got all of this information, but now we can go looking for which ones we think we should explore. Here's Anger. We can also go looking for Lillington. We can go see if there's one at Irwin, that kind of thing. So this answers a different type of question so that we can explore all of the different ways that we need to look at whatever the problem is. And so it does take time. You do have to go through a variety of different resources to be successful, but just the same way when you look at your toolbox and you have a variety of different tools, they each do something different so that you can build whatever it is that you want to build. Again, I know I've said this throughout, and I really want it to be clear. We are excited to help you. We want to help you. And here are your librarians. Allison, she led the first session. You met her. She's great. Mari, she led the second session. She's awesome. Dana's amazing too. And then there's me, not the dog. He can't help you. But we would be glad to support you in whatever your venture is in discovering information so that you can be successful. That is pretty much it. That's all I have for you. But if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer any.
All right, thank you so much, Morgan. We are recording this, and we will have it available for you to view if you want to review what Morgan went over today, or if you want to get copies of the slides. Giving everybody just 1 second to pop in any final questions they might have. Thank you so much for doing this today, Morgan. That was
yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
A great demonstration of how to put all of your information together to make it valuable for you and your business plan. Okay, getting a lot of thank yous.
Oh, that's a great question, Angie. I actually am going to drop a link into the chat really quick. This is the small business webinars LibGuide that we've put together. And this will basically have all of the different resources that we have available to you, shows you a little bit how to use them. And then it also will hold all of the webinar videos, and hopefully we'll put the slides up there pretty soon as well.
Morgan, I think that just went to us as panelists.
Oh,
that everyone really quickly.
Let's see.
I got you. I'll post it right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't see any final questions coming through. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much for doing this afternoon, Morgan. Thank you everyone for joining us. And make sure to make those appointments with your librarian. I think they're the best market research tool we have in our toolbox in our community. So, and they're vastly underutilized for the experience that they have and the tools that are available. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody, and have a great afternoon.